Hi boys and girls, welcome back to the Stick and Brush. I'm Christine and today we're going to do another episode of Beauty Basics and we're going to cover foundation. As always, before we get into it, if I could have you like this video, and if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit the little bell to be notified whenever I post. And you can follow me over on Instagram at steak_and_brush. So these are all the foundations I currently have. Not, okay, there's a lot, but it's not, like a lot. But I still, out of all the different foundations I have, I don't have all the different kinds, but let's get into it. All right, so your foundation is exactly what it says. It is the building block for your entire makeup. There are many different kinds of foundations out there, and a lot of it is really going to be trial and error on your part. I know that's not the greatest thing you want to hear, but everybody's body chemistry reacts a little differently with foundations. So you could have the exact same kind of skin you think as, a certain YouTuber or your best friend, but things aren't going to sit just the same way. But here are a few little tips and hints to help you learn more about what kind of foundation you should be wearing. There are different coverage levels for foundation, and if you think of it kind of as a painting canvas, you can do, if it's a if you're 17 years old and you've got a fresh canvas and there's nothing on it, you just need to have something to really build your makeup on. You can get away with a sheer or a light coverage foundation. It's just going to pretty much even out your areas to make it all look the same. But sheer or light is only going to cover up if you have very little to cover up. Most people will probably fall into a medium category. If you've got some light redness, some freckling, maybe a few red spots or pimples, things like that. And then full coverage, a lot of people went through a full coverage stage that didn't need to, but full coverage is if you have very dark age spots, you've got a lot of scarring, acne, lots and lots of blotchiness, and you need to fully cover it up. You're a reused painting, let's think of it that way. So you've got your original, you don't like it anymore, so you're gonna paint white over the whole thing, and you need a thick coat to make it opaque so you don't see that old one anymore. So again, you start with sheer, light, medium, or full. Most of them will, if you read the descriptions about your foundation, it will tell you what it is. It might not always work that, it might say medium, it's a light medium or something, but you get the kind of gist from it. There are several types of foundation. And what I mean by that is we've got liquids that, weirdly enough, are actual just liquids. We have sticks, like this is the Juvia's Place stick. These are great if you're traveling, especially if you're doing a lot of traveling. You don't have to worry about it spilling or anything. There are powders. I don't have any powder foundations. I just haven't tried any. They're not quite as popular, but they do make them. And then they have a mousse formula. These are, it's whipped, very aerated. There really aren't a lot of these either, but they're out there. You can make any of these types work for any skin type. It's just whatever your preference is. But predominantly, they're going to be in liquid form. There's different delivery types. My favorite, and this is very, very messy because this is my oldest one, this is my Fenty. My favorite is a pump. The reason it's my favorite, it's airtight. You don't want to let air into your foundation because that will, it'll make it go bad quicker. And it can change the color and, you know, cause it to oxidize in the bottle. It's also very hygienic. You are never touching what's inside the bottle at all. So you're not, you know, germs from your hands or your vanity, anything like that is never getting in here. It's just, you know, just the tip here. And so, you know, I usually don't even touch it. I just squeeze it on my hand. And so nothing actually ever touches that. They're also very, very similar to that. Not quite as good because you do have to open up the bottle. So for the few moments that you have the bottle open, you are letting air into it. But there is a dropper style where you're never actually touching the bottle, or, you know, you're not introducing germs onto the dropper if you don't, as long as you don't put it onto your hand, and so you're not introducing any kind of germs into the bottle. There are squeeze tubes. These are kind of in between. It keeps a decent amount of air out. It's not quite as much, and it's more hygienic because, you know, you're also still not touching anything to that. The problem I have with squeeze tubes, as opposed to droppers and pumps, it's very hard to measure. Once you are familiar with your foundation, you can say, okay, with Fenty, I need 2 pumps. With the Catrice, I need 3 drops, or whatever it is that works with yours. So you're never wasting any. You know exactly how much you need to use. With a pump, it's, you know, you kind of have to eyeball it to see, you know, this is about what I usually use. Let's see, there are, I don't have any, no, I don't have any. Well, this is kind of a doe foot. I don't like this as well, but there are doe feet, I guess. This is kind of like that. A real doe foot would have like a spongy part to it, but this has like a little spatula. This, when you put it directly on your face, anything you had on your face, if you did have any germs or anything like that, are going right back in here every time you place this back in. So that's the problem I have with that. You know, I will still use these kinds of delivery systems, but they're not my favorite. There are compacts. Compact, it looks like a little compact like this. I don't have any right now. The one I had I gave away because I didn't like it. But inside it will have a well with a sponge inside and a little fluffy pad for you to apply it. The actual foundation is pretty much, it's just a liquid that's been poured into the sponge. Again, when you use the sponge, you tap it in there, then you tap it on your face, and then you go in again, so anything on your face is in there. The other problem that I have with compact foundations is they usually have a lot less product. A standard bottle of foundation has 30 milliliters in it, which is 1 fluid ounce. Compact foundations usually have a lot less because you want to keep the amount that can be saturated by the sponge, and 1 fluid ounce apparently is just way too much. They don't want to make the compact big enough and the sponge inside big enough to hold that, I guess. Let's see. And then finally, you do have some bottles that don't have anything on it. It's just, I don't have any of those either, but it would just be like this Wet n Wild, except there would be no doe foot and you have to pour it out. Same thing with the squeeze bottle. You don't know exactly how much you're using, and this thing is open, so its air is getting straight into it. So that's a bummer. And finally, it's usually like the mousse can just be in a tub. And that's probably my least favorite because it's all out in the open and you are putting your fingers directly into the mousse, putting it on your face and putting it back in there. And no matter how many times you wash your hands, that's still, you know, you always have something on it, and you're getting that directly into the makeup. So that's the delivery systems. We've got now with the new trend in a lot of our foundations is adding skincare to it. So you will see a lot of them that have certain serums in them. They'll say anti-aging. A lot of them now will include hyaluronic acid, which is great for retaining moisture in your skin. A lot of them will have sunscreen. If it has sunscreen, that's terrific. It's an added bonus, but don't count on that to be enough to actually protect your skin when you go outside. The amount of foundation you would have to put on to make it that level of protection that it says on the bottle is, no one would ever go out with that much makeup. So, you know, it's a little added bonus, but it's not good enough for everything. There are different kinds of finishes. You can have matte where there's no shine whatsoever, natural or satin, which it looks just like your skin kind of normally looks, a little shinier usually in the T-zone and a little more matte throughout the cheeks. There is dewy and radiant, which those are both very popular right now, where you will get a lot of, I don't necessarily want to say shine so much, but you're on the shiny side. It looks like you've walked through a nice morning mist kind of thing. And a lot of those are just your personal preference. You know, whatever you like is what you like. You don't have to, you don't have to do any of these just because it's kind of popular right now. Now, deciding on what specifically is for you. One thing you want to look at is what type of skin you have. Do you have oily skin? Do you have dry skin? If you have combination skin, you can pretty much go anywhere you want to. If you have oily skin, things that will help you is if you do go for a more matte foundation. Even though it's matte, your natural oils throughout the day will kind of seep through it, and they will brighten it up and make it more dewy. If you have dry skin, the same thing. If you go for a dewier finish, because your skin is dry, it won't look as dewy as it does on somebody with oily skin or combination skin, but it will make it look more radiant. Look for things that have hyaluronic acid, or they say they are they have moisturizers in it. And I'm sorry, let me go back to the oily. Besides just the mattifying, look for things that say oil control, and you want to look for no added oils in the ingredients. Color and undertone are the hardest things to do. And if you want my best advice on what to do when you're picking out a foundation, is to go into some place like Sephora. Sephora actually has a little monitor thing, and it will say, this is, you know, your so, you know, this level of warm or cool and what your shade is. That's the best way to do it, and then they can actually color swatch if you're picking out something there. However, if you're in a drugstore, you can't do little swatches on your face. They don't really appreciate you opening up the product. So what I would do is just go into Sephora, ask them to color match you, and they can tell you if you're on the warm or cool, and you know, if you are more fair, light, medium, tan, or deep. Those are the colors. Fair, of course, is the lightest, going all the way up to deep. When you can test things, you want to swatch them on your jawline, right, and, you know, kind of next to each other. Leave a little bit of space, but what you're looking for is a color that matches as close as possible to your skin color here. Don't do it here. Look, this is not what your face looks like. Do it actually on your face with no other makeup on. And the one that you notice the least, that's closest to what your skin color is. That's your best color match. If you just can't find that, there are things that you can mix in with them. You can mix in a darker shade with a lighter shade. There are also things, what is it? LA Girl. It's a pretty cheap brand. You can get mixers in it that, you know, if it's too dark, if it's too light, if it's too warm, if it's too cool, to kind of counterbalance those. Undertone, again, I would go to Sephora and have them check that for you, but that is the hardest thing to check. They have different, you know, some people say put on a gold pair of earrings and a silver pair, and whichever one looks better, but a lot of that's personal preference. It doesn't, you know, some people just like gold, even if it doesn't look as good on them. Some people just like silver. The best thing I found to do is look at the veins right here in your wrist where your skin is the thinnest. If you have a yellow undertone, your veins are naturally going to be blue. If you've got a yellow undertone, they're going to look green. The greener they look, the warmer you are. If you have a rosy, which is a cool undertone, it's going to look more purple. And again, the more purple they look, the rosier your undertone is. If they just look blue, you are probably pretty neutral. And this, as well as your color, can change throughout the seasons. I'm a neutral, but during the summer, I pull a little more warm. And during the winter, I go a little more cool. My favorite foundation, I can wear it during the summer because of what it's a warmer tone, but I cannot wear it now because it makes me look yellow. So it's not just how dark it is, it's how yellow or blue the undertone is. So that's one way you can check it. That's probably the best way that I've found, other than going and having your color checked. Let's see. So what I would do is, if you are in the market for a foundation, first pick what benefits you're looking for. Are you looking for anti-aging? Are you looking for something that is full coverage? You want something that is going to take care of your redness. You want something that's going to make you less dry, or you're oily and you want something that's going to make you look less oily. So pick that, and then you can match, all right, well, in this Pro Glow, I want to be more radiant. So, and this Infallible Pro Glow says it's going to make me more radiant. So if this, then you choose the brand you're going to get. Then make sure you're getting it for your skin type. So, if this is, I don't want to grab this if I have dry skin and it has lots of things like SD alcohol in it, which will dry me out. I want something that is going to, like this says on here, it's hydrating. So for dry skin, that's good for me. And it says it's for normal to dry skin. So those match my skin type. Then you go for your color. Drugstore, you're going to have a little less range because they don't have as much out. I mean, with some of these, like the Charlotte Tilbury, you pick your color and then you pick your undertone. Whereas with L'Oreal, you're not necessarily going to get that. You're just going to look at, okay, 204 looks like my right skin tone, but it might not be the right skin color, but it might not be the right undertone. But the next one up is the right undertone, but not the right skin color. So that's kind of the bummer with that. But try to find your best match for your skin color and then your undertone. I will tell you, undertone is more important, because if you can find the undertone, but it's a little too light, light is much easier to do than dark too dark. If you get the right undertone and it's just like a shade too light, that's okay, because you can bring up the color. You just add a little more bronzer when you put your makeup on, maybe a little more blush, but that can help that out. Whereas if you have the right color, but the undertone is off, that can make you look kind of sickly. Like if you're warm, but you put, or if you're cool and you put on a warm shade, it's going to be yellow and you're going to look like you're having liver failure. So go for your undertone and then your color. So like I said, it can be very confusing to pick out foundation. Hopefully these different items have helped you learn what you need to look for, but a lot of it is just trial and error. The good thing about drugstore foundations is that they're cheaper for your trial and error. So if you get it off, you haven't wasted that much money. If you're looking for a higher end, the best thing I can tell you, unfortunately Ulta doesn't really do samples. Go to Sephora and ask for a sample. They'll color match you and make sure they get the best color for you. They'll give you a little sample of it that you can use for about 3 or 4 days, that you can use it several times to see if it's right for you. That's actually the very best thing to do. I wish drugstores did that, but they just don't. So I hope this has helped you out. And in my next video, make sure to tune in for that. I'm going to actually go through the swatching and looking at the different colors, how to actually, you know, how it actually looks when you do the color testing, and how to apply your foundation. So hope this helped. I greatly thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.